Welcome.
Hi.
Yes.
We're so glad that you guys showed up today with us. We're having such a wonderful time today.
Yes, and we thank you for joining us. And boy, this has been a week, right?
Oh, yes.
It has been a tiresome week. I mean, I felt very exhausted over even the last couple of weeks. So I don't know if anybody else is experiencing that, but
lots of battles.
Were you extra busy at work? Were you?
No, it's just the energy. I think it's just the energy in the air. I've heard a lot of people saying how physically exhausted they feel. And,
Yes.
I was in the group. So.
What about you, Becky? How did you feel?
Well, I had a decent week. I really did. And I always do better when the sun is shining. So that's a good thing. I do. Like,
this is true.
We had some really big rain here, like midweek, and I always do better when the sun is shining, which it is now. So I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah.
So girls, I see you have some cute shoes on today. They're so cute. I love your shoes.
Thanks very much.
Shoe connoisseurs.
Yes.
And the topic of our talk today is pain. The pain of high heels. Like, girl, how many times have you had shoes on and you're like about to scream because your feet hurt like so bad?
Where you want to take them off.
Yes.
But now you have to choose between walking on that ground
or looking cute.
Yes.
That's it.
I have chosen cute way too many times.
That's right.
I mean, you're not going to ruin your outfit.
And look, we got these lovely, like, a lot of people think that these would hurt your feet, but they're actually platforms. So these are only about 2 or 3 inches tall because of the platform. So it's kind of like a fake heel. It's not really truly that tall.
Right.
But the heels that we want to talk to you guys about today is the pain of high heels. In other words, plateaus and valleys in our life.
Right.
Those hills that we have to climb on a weekly and daily basis.
Yes.
Those personal, emotional hills. And also hills dealing with family and friends. So, thinking about that, what kind of hills have you dealt with at some point in time?
Well, I think for me, I've dealt with abandonment. I've dealt with sometimes it's even for certain people a pain of loneliness, a pain of, wanting to be accepted, feeling like you don't belong, and as you get older, you start to really experience pain because as a grown woman, now you have other people in your experience. So now you're dealing with their experience and your experience coming together, and a lot of times it can become very combative. Yes. And it doesn't matter whether it's children or a spouse, even sometimes with your parents, if you have your parents or grandparents, but co-workers, different things like that. So it's a journey.
What about you, Becky? Talk about it.
Well, I think that, listening to Tanya, that was very good. I think pain can embed itself at a very early age. And, there's that kind of pain that we have from something that may have happened to us or how we felt when we were young, and we carry that with us. I'm learning a lot about that. I'm reading about a book about abandonment and healing.
Right.
And there's that kind of pain that can affect you the rest of your life. But I think that I've had different kinds of pain based upon where I was in my life. How you look at it. Sometimes, pain of, like you said, not, wanting to fit in, or pain about maybe a breakup with your first breakup with your first love, things like that, and then you move on, and it could be pain in the family, and I'm still dealing with all of it, just trying to figure out how it affects me and what I can do about it. So.
And the different levels of pain, they can come from, like you said, your childhood. So we have like memorized pain.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or since today we're also celebrating Father's Day this week, you think about pain that maybe your parents had that actually passed down to you, and you're dealing with something that you've taken it on as your personal pain, which was actually something that maybe one of your parents had because they reacted a certain way to different situations.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, if your father, maybe say he didn't have a dad in his life, maybe he didn't know how to quite raise his children or how to have that personal relationship, how to have that close relationship, maybe where you hug somebody. I know, for example, my mom, even though she had both of her parents in the home, her parents never kissed her because my mom's 90. And in those days, a lot of times parents didn't like kiss, they weren't affectionate. They loved you, and they did everything for you, but maybe they didn't have that affection. So, you know, sometimes we evolve from that, and sometimes we also take on their traits. So, what is your experience with that?
I agree with what you're saying, and I think that what happens is that when we're young, we look at it and think that that's the norm. Because if you don't really know that it's not the norm, whether it's abuse you see in your household, you know, and you got all kinds of abuse. I mean, that's just a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
But you know, and you know, like you said, the kind of an emotional abandonment, because back then, you know, they didn't give, you know, they didn't touch, and they weren't real touchy-feely.
Yeah.
You know,
So that's what your
I
parents too?
experienced that too, but I experienced it on a different level because I was raised by grandparents.
Okay, right.
So they really were generations back, and so you're looking at a huge gap.
So were they touchy-feely or not?
No.
Okay.
Not at all. Not at all. If anything, it was more of a very combative type of relationship, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because when you're a child, you don't really understand it.
Okay.
You know, I just kind of, I was there,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I didn't really, my mom left when I was 5, so how I realized that I didn't have a mom was because other kids told me that I didn't have a mom. So that was another thing that became embedded in me, that other people told me who I was and how I should feel and how you should be, you know. So I dealt with that. Oh, you're skinny, you know. Look at your hair, because I was different looking. I looked different. I had different color hair, and I was light skinned, so it was always, you know, you look white, or you skinny, or you're, you know. So it was that the insecurities just kicked in because I couldn't figure out how to be what I needed to be so that people could accept who I was.
Right.
But I didn't realize it as a child.
Becky, how about you? How did you come across pain that you've experienced? Was it inherited pain, or was it your own pain?
Wow, I think both. I think that, I mean, everybody has something. Everybody goes through pain of some sort, but I had what I thought was a really smooth sailing background. I'm from a little town. Everybody was kind of the same. There wasn't like huge comparisons between people or incomes or anything like that. Thank God I didn't know anything about that. So that was cool. But I do think that, you know, depending upon how your parents, which are your first imprints, how they were raised, it's going to come to how they raise you. My parents had to work a lot just to support the family, and you know, they were good. They were good parents. Talk about affection. That was not, and those were the days back then too.
Yeah.
There was not a lot of demonstration of affection. There was, you just kind of knew. You knew how they felt about you. I remember being in college before I kind of told my mom outright, I love you, my mom and dad, and they kind of struggled to say back, well, I love you too. You know, it's just because it wasn't the natural thing to say for our family. But, you know, moving on from there, I think, people can have pain with their siblings. I think that, in my case, that was very close to me because I had one sibling, and how we got along really affected me during my life, and how we got along and how my parents would or would not step in with how we got along still affects me, and I probably have to deal with that. And so it can come early.
Yeah,
it can come early.
I think me personally, pain was subtle, because my pain was more like I felt lonely, because at the time, like, my mom didn't work most of her life, but at a younger age she did work some at the post office, and so if she wasn't there, and I don't know who else was in the house, I can't remember, but I remember I felt lonely. So I would just put all my dolls around me and entertain myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't feel that pain of feeling lonely. But then, as with age and with time, my parents they were more affectionate maybe than their parents were.
Mm-hmm.
So when my idea of the world was that people love you, and people are kind, and people are good to you, so I'm walking around thinking that everybody's like my parents, which leaves you wide open.
Right.
And I ended up with a whole lot of pain because I had to realize that the world was not my parents. But I'm thankful that they gave me that foundation, because even though I had to endure a lot of pain, like relationships and maybe people misunderstanding and things like that, I had a foundation that I could go back to.
Yeah.
But then sometimes it wasn't enough. So that's when I had to, find out spiritually who I was, because spiritually I was able to deal more with pain, looking at somebody else's pain and having to digest it in that respect, and to find healing in that.
Right. Well, for me, it was more what I realized that when I was young, the negative things that went on into my life attached themselves to me and followed me. Rejection was something that I dealt with almost throughout my life. And, I didn't know who I was. And so in trying to find who am I as a woman, what do I like, what do I not like, I ended up, you end up in things and places that you probably shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Right.
And doing things that you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
But, okay, you don't like that, or you find, even domestic violence, you end up in relationships that become volatile, and because you don't know who you are, and because you were brought up with nobody ever telling you what was really right, what you should accept and what you shouldn't accept, then you just don't really know how to deal with it. Do I stay? Do I stay with this? Do I do I leave? Is this the cue? How long do you put up with something? How long do you take it? And that's regardless of whether it's a job, a relationship, even some people dealing with their parents.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, where's the line drawn?
Right.
Where do you say? Because everybody tells you, well, you have to forgive, and I'm listening to a lot of forgiveness. You need to forgive and send love. And I guess for me the struggle is that I've got to find love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the best.
Like,
when you can find it within yourself.
Right.
And from what your higher energy is, God, your relationship, what it is for you.
Right.
And,
but what is
building
it?
that. Building that.
When you haven't had it.
Yeah.
And the purest form that I've seen of love is between a mother and a child.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the purest form. And fathers, you know what I mean? Father, mother, you know, but that relationship is where that parent will go to war for that child.
Yeah.
But I haven't experienced any other type of relationship in that sense.
Right.
You know, and I can only say that coming from me with my children and my grandkids.
Right. So you got the chance to show love to your son.
Right, but here was the key. And y'all listen, people can have it out or whatever, but I watched the Cosby Show.
Okay, yeah.
And let me tell you something, Claire Huxtable had it going on.
Yeah.
Because I think I was probably around my 30s, and I saw her style. And I looked at that, and I said, you know what? And I know, I'm telling on myself, but I'm going to be real.
Yeah.
When I'm on here, I just want to be real.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I said, I love that style.
Yeah.
Yes.
And even though it may have been, fantasized, but it really changed my perception.
We all learned from that.
Yeah, on being a mother, it changed my perception.
Yes.
You know, so yeah.
You didn't have to. To me, you didn't have to. You could be fair, but you could be a disciplinary person if you needed to.
Right.
But you didn't have to tear somebody down or make them feel bad.
Right.
And you could encourage people to make their own decisions by helping them weigh things. You know, I just think that, well, that's a really good example. In this world, in today's world, there are many more resources to learn healthy ways of communicating with families, in relationships. We didn't really have that growing up. In the way you probably have to talk to somebody like a therapist, or maybe read it in a book. But now it's instant. So I am benefiting from that, because I mean, all your life you have to make adjustments, emotional adjustments. But I love that now there are still ways for us to learn, ways for us to redeem ourselves from what we may have done in the past when we handled things wrong, because now we know better. And that is ongoing with me.
I think, to both your point, the whole forgiveness piece. When I went into the world and I started experiencing pain, I'm like thinking, okay, so why are you hurting me? What would justify you to treat me that way? So I took everything so personal. I had no clue that I'm dealing with people that come from their own background. They have a whole different experience. It's not all about me. So I had to start understanding that, you need to set some boundaries. Because, it's not that they're such a bad person. That's just all they know. So I had to start learning to set more boundaries, and also forgiveness. Forgiveness to me is one of the most, healing things that you can do, as long as you don't forgive and then go back into the pig pen. If you go back into the pig pen, you're going to come out muddy and stinky and dirty. And, but if you go back and just, you take your authority over yourself, you take that authority, you have the right to love, but you have a right to set a boundary. And there's nothing wrong with you making somebody upset or mad at you because you have a boundary, because you have to know you have value. You are worth it. You are the only person you're going to have the rest of your life.
Right. So
if you continue to let other people minimize you and blow your little candle and blow your little flame out, and you become this little small flame that can just be gone, then you don't have value for yourself. So, what makes me think about it also is not just children, but the young people that are cutting themselves. Especially a few years ago, they were really big into cutting themselves, and I've seen a lot of, as I've gotten older, I've seen a lot of people that are now adults that have those scars, those prior scars from where they cut themselves, just in, your regular public workplace, different places that you see. And it always when I see painful looking things, I internalize it. Like I'm compassionate about it, and I'm just, you can't ask them, what happened? Are you okay now? Because the cut might be just on the inside. Like they might not be cutting on the outside anymore, but the cut might still be on the inside. So I got that from my mom, to be naturally compassionate and try to maybe help somebody if I can. But I've also learned to keep my boundary. Because they might not be ready for healing. I might not be able to help them either. But like Becky said, they could get therapy. But let me ask you, like on a scale of 1 to 5, like in our own personal life, what is your pain ratio? Like how much pain do you allow dealing with situations or people now compared to when you were like, 10, 15 years ago?
Well, for me personally, perspective of age has changed a lot. It's allowed me to have a different pain level.
Right.
So something that I might have thought years ago was so painful, and it might have been painful. I look back and I think that as you get older, you have a perspective that says, this too will pass, because it will pass. Some other things are more permanent, but you have a different perspective as to what you can do about that pain. Of course, when you're a child, you feel like you can't do anything, and I remember that too. But how vulnerable you are.
Yeah.
But then as an adult, I think it's important to still you can be vulnerable, meaning you can be real, you can be authentic, and you can be yourself, and you might get some pain back, but it's okay because you are yourself, and talk about boundaries, that you're important enough to be able to take, be able to have a perspective when someone may do something that you feel a little pain about. You can feel differently about it. You can still be in a healthy place without just taking it in and letting it hurt you permanently.
Right. And I agree with you as far as when you're younger. When I was younger, I didn't even realize it was pain. It was just, I took it on and I just kept it moving. And I think where for me, it hit me was once I got older. Is where it all started coming out in anger and frustration. Wow. And even as a kid, I may have been kind of mean or angry, and I don't think people really understood why. I don't even know if I understood why. I don't know if I picked up traits, from your upbringing or what it was that latched on to me, but I was very a matter-of-factly and get out of here, you go ahead on, but the crazy thing was that I took more in my relationships, my personal relationships, than I would in just like friendships and just people that weren't close to me. People that weren't close to me had a boundary. Yeah. Because I'm not gonna tolerate it. You can go ahead on. And I was a fighter. And I don't mean just, duking it out. I mean like I might be scared, but you're not gonna know that I'm scared. Right. Because
that probably served you well though.
It did.
I'm thinking while you're talking, I didn't have boundaries like that. I wasn't tough. And I don't know where that came from either. I guess I don't know I didn't stand up for myself much. I kind of internalized a lot more than anything. So I'm listening to that and I'm like, I wish I would have had some of that. Yeah. To defend myself.
Yeah. And I did, but I didn't have it in my personal relationships until it peaked. And then once it got to the point where all of a sudden, boom, and I would explode, and now it's like, I'm ready, I'm ready, and so for me now, where I am at this point in my life, I don't tolerate it. And I don't care who you are.
I'm the kind of person that I was really good for just abandoning folk. Like I would abandon
you
people.
Would leave the
yeah,
situation.
Yeah, I would leave.
You know, let me tell you, I'm trying to think. I was watching something and they were talking about that and how she would always leave a situation.
Yeah, I would just, because the pain was too great. I didn't necessarily hate you or anything like that, but I just was saying, hey, I'm going this way. You go wherever you want to go, but I don't want any more of that. So, you go on. I'm not going to hate you, but you're not going to keep doing that to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to have anything to do with you. So I was really good with just do this.
I think that's okay too.
Yeah.
But see, you know what? The difference is that I went through abandonment, so I guess my issue was I didn't want to abandon people.
Right.
Because I had been abandoned.
Yes.
So, and sometimes we as women have a tendency to stay in things too long.
Yeah. Yeah.
We stay somewhere too long. It's over.
Yeah.
Walk away. It's done.
Yeah. And since that's perfectly like what you were saying, by me abandoning people, and I was thinking it was okay because I'm thinking,
you told them holler back. I'm out.
Yeah, I feel like, hey, at least I'm not hurting you back. I'm not doing anything negative to you, so I'm good. I'm righteous. I'm righteous because I'm not the one doing nothing to nobody. But that was wrong because then how many relationships do you build?
Right.
I mean, you got your high school relationships.
Right.
You got some friendships because high school you're doing different activities and all this stuff. As you're an adult and you keep abandoning folks, your relationships get cut back because I don't think anybody should stand for a whole lot of drama unless that's they can handle that. But at the same time, you have to, if you're going to have friends, you're going to have to be flexible to some degree.
Right.
I think if they respect you as a friend or learn to respect you, they're not going to come at you a certain way. But I think, so I wasn't correct. I wasn't completely correct in just abandoning people and just saying, bye, see you later next time, whatever.
Well, what I've had to learn to do too is I've had to step back and I've had to see what my responsibility was in the situations that I've been in.
Yes.
Because the only way for me to be able to learn how to move going forward, because you want better relationships.
Yes.
You want to be in a great marriage. You want to be in, your children have great relationships with your children.
Yeah.
You want to have great relationships with your friends. And listen, everything has turbulence.
Yeah.
That's not, this is just the world we live in, but I'm just saying, where it's okay, but I had to step back and say, what part did I play in this to get this to this point?
Yeah.
And that's when I started discovering what I was carrying on my back.
Right.
Okay.
And being tough, it sounds good, but it is terrible because you carry the load, and I'm walking around here. You know how they have those big old, in those countries, and they have them big things on their bicycles, and they have all that stuff packed up, and they just riding around, and I'm riding around with all this baggage. I got my kids, hooked to it. They both on both sides, hanging on. I got all my pain and all my suffering, and I got their pain and suffering that that I have to take responsibility for because I was their guide.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like